Right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever the case is. This interview is being filmed for the International Bomber Command Centre, and the gentleman I'm interviewing is Jan Black. My name is Thomas Ozell, and also in the room we have
Danuta Biljuk.
And Arthur Biljuk.
And we're recording this interview at the Polish Centre in Hammersmith on the 10th of July 2016. Now, could you please tell me what year you were born?
Yes, I was born 18/4/1922 in Eastern Poland, Chełm Lubelski. And after having 14 years, my father emigrated to South America, to Argentina. When we arrived in South America, my father bought land and started plantation. I went to school in Argentina to learn English and the rest of my education. After 5 years, the Second War started in 1939, September. After hearing the destruction in my country and suffering which my country was involved, I was very, very upset because I had very patriotic feeling for my country and my people. In English newspapers in Buenos Aires were advertisement what some volunteers can join and enter into British Armed Forces. I apply to such invitation, and I was asked to come over to Buenos Aires, to the capital city, to have interview. I did travel to the capital city, had interview, and after the interview, I was asked when would I like to be ready for my journey to join to the armed forces in Great Britain. I told them that's after arrangement what they would provide. After 3 weeks, I received letter, and they told me, I can come to the capital city and I will have accommodation provided before the boat which will be sailing back to England. I arrived to mention location in the Buenos Aires and had accommodation in hotel as it was arranged. But we never knew when the boat would be sailing, as it was strict secret. but we've been told we must be ready on short notice. And we received that notice, but in 4 hours we must be ready, and we would get transportation from the hotel to the very big boat called Highland Monarch. That boat was 26,000 tonner, big one. And the most of his supply to England was meat for the nation in England. When we start our voyage, our boat, to avoid German location of German submarine, was not going on the straight course. He was doing the zigzagging to avoid German's location of German submarine. That journey took us much longer to enter Belfast in Northern Ireland, because the boat was always in danger to come to the main ports of England. So the location between Argentina and Belfast was arranged for those 4 big liners which were doing their important supply of food between England and Argentina. The name of those boats was Highland Chieftain, Highland Monarch, Highland Princess. The 4th one I don't remember. And after arriving in Belfast, we've been arrange accommodation in hotel for 2 nights, and afterwards we've been at night shipped to Scotland, and we found ourselves in some military barracks. After 1 week, we had to pass medical board, and we've been asked in what unit of armed forces we would like to serve. Of course, I was young, and I thought the most exciting unit I wanted to join to the Royal Air Force. During that time, Polish Air Force started to be formed in England. And I asked the commanding officer in English station if it is possible for me to be served in the Polish Air Force. And I received permission, and I had ticket arranged for me to travel to Blackpool. In Blackpool, it was the first Polish center when the Polish Air Ministry was based. In Blackpool, after having another interview about what profession I would like to serve in the Polish Air Force. Once again, I wanted to fly, and they told me the only, at that time, vacancy for training would be as a air gunner, because to have a permission to train as a pilot would be taking much longer time, as we had special amount of people what only they could afford to train at such time. I accept my position as a rear gunner. After finishing all my training, I had posting arranged for me to go to the 18 OTU operational Bramkot, where we start to be trained flying and having different night flights and earning more experience about future commitments which we will be engaged. Beginning of such training, we had training to drop leaflets, propaganda leaflets over Vichy, France, to promise French people what liberation will be coming for them in near future. During my return from such a mission, our Wellington bomber received defect, and we crash landed before we reached the aerodrome. During that impact in the crash, I lost consciousness. When I recovered my consciousness, I knew what I must try to get out of my crash plane. But before deciding to look exit out, I decided to try to see what's happening to my pilot. From the rear turret, I crawled to the front of the plane, where the pilot was sitting. I tried to get him out of the burning plane, but I couldn't untie his belt, but he was tied with it. And the plane was increasing of the burning. I covered my left side of my face with my left hand, and with my right hand I look for the exit from my burning plane. Then I noticed skylight exit as my plane was broken in 2 pieces. During that exit, I scrambled to get out of the plane with burning my combination, flying suit, as the petrol was already full of petrol. During my crawling and from the plane, I received help from local farmers when they came and took my burning combination out of me. But I was already very badly burned, my face and my hands. Ambulance came and been notified of the accident in about half an hour. And I was taken to Cosford Hospital, RAF Hospital, near Wolverhampton. During that hospital, receiving first treatments for 1 week, I had chance to meet very famous doctor who came and inspect the RAF hospital in Cosford. The name of that doctor was Sir Archibald McIndoe. He was one of the great plastic surgeon doctor based in Queen Victoria Hospital, East Grinstead, Sussex. He told me he was going to transfer me to his hospital. And asked me if I will be happy to go there. I told him what I leave decision to him, as he was the person knowing better my situation. On the next day, the ambulance took me to East Grinstead Hospital, and in that hospital I found lots of different my friends from the RAF. They were Canadians, Poles, Czechs, English, and I felt I found myself like in a big family. I started my treatment under that plastic surgeon, Sir Archibald McIndoe. He was to us airmen, what from different accident, from different type of injury what we receive, we treat him. He was not only our big doctor, but he was our friend, and we could not give him the greatest recognition how he tried to do whatever possible to bring our disfigurement back to better future. After spending 4 months in East Grinstead, I received quite good improvement of my recovery. And the hospital was very under big pressure. New cases were arriving day and night. Hospital, for giving some burning airmen quite bigger recovery, had to send them back to their units as they were short of beds. I received that notice that I will be sent back to my station. When I received that notice, and when I had my train ticket provided, I arrived at my station and I had to report to my commanding officer. When my commanding officer saw me, he asked me what I want to do. I looked at my commanding officer and I said to him, "Sir, what I want to do, I want to do what I've been trained to do. I want to fly." He looked at me and he said, "Warrant officer, in case you ever will be involved in some type of possibility showdown over Germany, you will be very unwelcome with your profile." I turned to my commanding officer and I replied, "Sir, maybe my future flying will not always be so unfaithful." Then I had to pass certain tests if I was fit enough to fulfill my professional responsibility in flying. And I was sent for 2-hour test with 2 doctors on board on my plane. After having 2 hours flying, we returned to base, and the doctors told me what they will live. They will live the rest of my experience and test of my flying with my commanding officer. After 2 days, my commanding officer met me again, and he said, after seeing the report from my flying, he said he has full confidence of giving me to continue my duty. I received my job as a flying as a spare gunner in my station, and I continue to fly. I made 18 operations over Germany, and I was recalled to hospital to finish my treatment. When I returned to hospital, after 3 days, my crew, what I was flying, went on bombing mission and were shot down. The pilot, what I remember his name, he was squadron leader Jan Konaszewski, was killed, and the navigator was killed. So many years I cannot remember the navigator name. The rest of the crew escaped from the German concentration camps. I've heard 2 of them, after when war finished, they went to Canada. I don't know what happened to the rest of the crew. When I finished my treatment in East Grinstead, war ended. I was transferred to still serve in my service in station, Royal Air Force Station, Andover in Hampshire. I was there on responsible duty to keep the aerodrome not be sometime taken for training horses, as local training horses sometime were coming to the aerodrome, and they were problem for the landing planes. We've been doing as guarding the aerodrome in Andover, so the aerodrome was always free for any landing plane. After 3 years, I been asked to return to Dunholm Lodge discharging center. I went to Dunholm Lodge from Andover Station, and after 2 weeks I received my discharge, my demob suit, my demob shoes, 2 shirts, and some compensation money. And that's how I ended my service in the Royal Air Force in 1948. That's about the end of my story.